We don't have
That's it.
anything to talk about, so this
I'm
is.
just.
Did you listen to the last episode? Do
Did
you
I listen to
do
the
you
last
listen to our
episode?
show?
God no. Why would I do that?
Because there's a new segment on our show
Okay,
that if you must not even know about.
I
Uh,
probably don't.
Ending our show after the shoutouts. Last week I snuck it in as a bonus after the music. I'm going to start doing it after the shoutouts now, though. Is a pre-recorded segment that my wife and I did of us being intimate together. I'm just gonna how weird would that be? Like here's just
That would be very weird.
no, it's so there's a podcast that I used to well that I do like, but they don't make it anymore. So I used to like it. It's not like I grew out of it. But there is a podcast that I used to like called
Shit. Don't leave me in
No,
suspense.
listen, if we don't say anything, I can just edit this out and post and nobody will know that I forgot the name of the podcast. The Play Better podcast. Take two. We're going to do take two, okay? There's a
Sure.
podcast that I used to listen to because it ended. I would still listen to it if they made new episodes called the Play Better
Hmm.
podcast. And one of the things that they did at the end of their show was a segment called Molly Reads the Rules, where one of the hosts, Molly, would read an excerpt of a role playing game rule section. And it was kind of fun. It was I don't know. There's something about it that like was like this NPR-ish quality. It's like, and she mostly did like funny like monster stats or like tables, like graphs or whatever, like charts, which would be funny. It's like 20 ways to or 20 monsters you might find in this dungeon, and then like I don't know. It was weird. It was different. It was kind of funny. So my wife and I recorded a bunch of those, pulling segments from a bunch of different role playing games. This the last episode, I cut in her excerpt that she read from the Tingleverse, the new Chuck Tingle role playing game. Are you familiar with Chuck Tingle, Mike?
Passingly,
Yeah.
I know what you're referring to.
So Nikki really likes Chuck Tingle. She's super amused by it. So she read the entry on the mashed potato elemental, and that was in our last episode. And we recorded like a couple dozen of these. So in every episode coming up, we're going to end the show with Nikki Reads the Rules, where she reads an excerpt from a role playing game that we thought would be amusing to hear read. One of them is my game. So if you want to hear an excerpt from Murder Be Thy Name, it'll be on one of the episodes. Probably not this one.
You could also buy the book.
You could buy the book. It's quite affordable. It's in fact the PDF is on sale right now on Drive Through RPG because it's a spoopy game. And they're doing their spoopy sale.
So the way that that sale works, do you get less
Yep.
for the copies, or
Yep.
okay?
Yep.
Did you like? Was there an opportunity to opt in to the sale?
Yep.
Okay.
Listen, I'm not going to sell a copy at this point. So
I just didn't. I legitimately didn't know how it worked. That
it,
was
yeah. No, you, it's all or nothing. You either opt into the holiday sales or opt out of the holiday sales. And I opt in because it's like the game has been out for a year now. I'm not going to sell any additional copies. I may as well get whatever visibility I can. So
yeah.
there you go. Speaking of role playing games that I have designed, uh, I think that you and I should start more seriously discussing designing a role playing game using some of the Patreon money that we're bringing in for
Okay.
things that we don't know how to do, like art.
Okay.
So uh, maybe not this episode, but maybe one of the future episodes we'll do a brainstorming session. We'll pitch a handful of ideas and we'll try to settle on like maybe we'll build the concepts of the game on the show and then, sit down and write it. Like obviously we're not going to write on the show. Like could you imagine the most boring Twitch possible?
That would be very boring.
Two
I
men.
have I have collaboration like in a Google video chat with someone, like their face on one monitor and the shared document on the other, going back and forth. And like it's interesting to do, but it would be hell to listen to or watch.
Yeah. So I'm not proposing that we write it on the air, but we could conceptualize it and discuss it as we write it on the air. That's my thought.
Sure, sounds great.
So we're pulling in about, like, after fees and everything, we get about $20 a month through the Patreon. So I mean, that's, as long as people keep subscribing, that'll keep adding up, and we'll have a decent art budget in a few months. So
Yeah.
and I figure, we start with commissioning, like, the cover art or whatever, so we have something to kind of, like, market with.
Yeah.
And then maybe, like, take the idea to Indiegogo or Kickstarter or whatever to raise additional capital. But I think this is a good idea. I think this is a good medium for us to start discussing ideas and start fleshing things out. I think our listeners would be interested in hearing the process and being able to hop on our Discord channel and discuss the process with us and pitch us ideas. And, like, obviously we're not going to take anything just because you say it, but
Right.
we I'd be interested in hearing community feedback on what we're doing. And I think it'd be a really fun idea to, like, build a role-playing game in front of an audience.
Sure.
So
Sounds good to me.
look forward
Is
to
that
that in a future
The
episode.
show.
No, that's not this
Show
one.
over.
Do you not want to be here? Are you so excited about Halloween tomorrow?
No, I'm entirely ambivalent.
Except for Friday. You're excited for Friday and Saturday, right?
Isn't the party on Saturday?
It is, but I'm going to be in town on Friday. We might see each other on Friday.
Yeah, but I see you right now, so it's not like.
Listen. But I'll be wearing pants on Friday.
I don't want to know any of that.
I'm wearing pants right now. Don't be weird. Or am I?
Okay. I don't care. No, I care. I don't want to know the answer. I do not want verification one way or the other. I would prefer the mystery remain intact.
Don't worry, it will. Speaking of me taking my clothes off, have I talked to you about Nikki doing burlesque classes?
Yeah.
So the other day, while we were getting ready for bed, Nikki and I built a burlesque routine for myself.
Okay.
It's dad themed. So
Okay.
So imagine, if you will, and you can imagine a lot of this because you've seen a lot of me. But a Hawaiian shirt, right?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
Khaki pants, white socks, come up to about like mid calf, with the sock garters to help keep your socks up. Sandals, of course. Under the. Well, we'll do it reverse burlesque. So, like, I won't describe from the bottom up. I'll bring you through it. But apron, like a kiss the cook apron. Tongs, like grill tongs.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep. We haven't figured out, like, hat or glasses or anything on the head yet. But probably shaving off down to just a mustache, because that is the most daddish facial arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
So the routine starts, and the first thing that you drop the apron down halfway, so it's still tied around your waist, but it's off your neck. And then you start unbuttoning the Hawaiian shirt, but you reveal under the Hawaiian shirt a plain white T-shirt, an undershirt, right?
Yeah.
So then you take off the Hawaiian shirt, then you take off the khaki pants. They're not breakaway; they are just normal khaki pants. So you just drop them to your ankles, and you awkwardly gyrate and then kick them off, and then, like, they get stuck on your foot because you still have sandals on, and it's very, like, trying to get my pants off. But remember, you still have the apron on, so you don't see the underwear or anything. Right?
Yeah.
You still with me?
Unfortunately.
Socks and garters still on.
Sure, of course.
So You do a little dancey, little teasy. You reveal heart print boxers, right? But you leave the apron on because you need it for future reveals.
Okay.
Then you start to sexily take off the sandals, but you leave on the socks. Gentleman does not take off his socks.
Okay.
Then, after the sandals are off, you stand back up, and then you slowly drop the boxers. Again, keeping the apron on so you can't see anything. And right about then is when the song ends, the routine's over. You turn around and walk off stage, and everybody sees your thonged buttocks.
Of course. There were no surprises in that routine for me.
Oh, I did forget. At one point, before sandals, you take off the undershirt. So it's... Yeah, you do take off the undershirt.
There remain no surprises in that routine.
It's not about being surprising.
I'm saying, like, of course that's your routine.
Yeah.
Like, if I had to guess, that would be it. Like, that would be how it goes.
Pretty great, huh?
It sure is something.
Would you come see it?
Is this a trap?
No.
Is that the only event that's going on that night?
No, like it would be part of a burlesque show. It wouldn't just be like, come over to my living room, Mike.
I mean, that would be weird, right?
That would be weird. No, like if I did this and it was part of a full burlesque show, there were like, say, 6, 7 other acts.
Maybe. I might.
I'll take it.
I'm not, like... That might be a level of...
Listen, you wouldn't see anything you haven't seen before.
No, I know. But there is a certain level of watching my friends perform that I find awkward, like makes me feel awkward.
Huh.
That I don't know how to address. Cause like fucking I'm not doing anything, right? So I don't know.
Why does watching your friends perform make you feel awkward?
I do not know. It's something that's always been
like awkward how? Like describe the feeling.
I think that there is a certain level of projecting my stage fright. Like, I'm not the one on stage, but I feel anxious for someone that I know being on stage because I think that I project that onto them. So then it makes me anxious. I don't know why, but like, yeah.
That feeling that if that was me, like,
yes,
I know this person, and if that was me, I would be very uncomfortable right now.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't think I have stage fright.
I have been invited to many performances by friends, like on everything from like music to public speaking and all that stuff, and like it makes me very uncomfortable.
That's interesting.
But I try to go because I know that like when someone's performing that and they invite you, like, there's a certain statement there of like, hey, I would like you to be there, and it's something that I think is important.
Yeah.
But like, fuck, I feel so awkward in those situations. So I will give you a maybe.
Hey, listen, that is honestly a lot more than I expected, so I'll take it. I expected a no.
Well,
But you're right, and that's it's interesting. Like, I agree. I think part of being a friend is when your friends do stuff, showing up, right? Like, a good friend supports their friends in whatever they're trying to achieve. Like, so there's this guy that I met here that I'm trying to become friends with. He does puppetry. So like, I'm like, I have kids. I'll bring my kids to his puppet shows, and like, I think he's a cool guy. So it'll be my way of kind of like helping support what he's doing, because that's what friends do, right? Like friends go to your shows.
Yeah.
So, but I understand that, like, being like, hey, I'm going to do a burlesque routine where I'm going to strip down to my bare ass. And you want to come see that? You, of all people, could be like, I've seen enough.
Yeah, I mean, it has very little to do with that, and more just to do with like the
performance.
It's yeah, like I've always felt that way. Like it's always made me feel kind of weird. Watching people that I know perform.
So I wasn't there, but at Gen Con, when you guys won Ennies, did you not go up on stage?
I did.
How was that?
I was very adamant that if we won, I was not going to go up on stage. And John said, like teasingly, not being serious, he was like, "If we win best rules, you have to go up on stage." And I was like, I don't want to. And he was like that. When I said that, like that's when he was like, "Oh, like you mean that you really don't want to?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't want to." And he was like, "Okay, you won't have to then. If you want to stay, if you don't want to go up on stage, you don't have to. That's totally fine." In the moment, I did end up going up there, but like was very adamant that I didn't want to speak. And like once I got up there, like John having said like, "You really don't want to go? Okay, then you don't have to." And then like in the moment, he saw me there and he was like, "Have you changed your mind about like, do you want to say something?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Okay, no problem." But even that was like pretty weird for me. I think that probably if I won some other award or like in a similar circumstance, I probably wouldn't go a second time. But I think that it was the first thing like that I had won. I think that that's probably what drove me in the moment to go up there.
So how was it when you were like once you got up there? Did you like immediately regret it, or were you like, well, just got to get through this? Or
It was fine. Like I didn't regret it, but I wasn't like, yeah, that was great. I want to go up there again. No, it was fine.
interesting.
But since when do irrational phobias and the like give a shit about personal experience and right?
Yeah.
Like you can't. It's irrational for a reason. Like
Well,
there's
that's why I was
no.
like curious. Like once you got there, what was the reaction? Because like the irrationality of it could still be there and be like, oh fuck, why did I do like you could have like put your foot on the stage and immediately be like, this was the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life. Like,
Yeah. No, it
or
was
you could get up
fine.
there and be like, oh shit, like this is nothing. Like
It was neutral, but like I would not probably go up again.
for the same reason, for that same like discomfort, or
Yeah.
because like been there, done that, but like
The awkwardness. Like I wouldn't want to go up.
so it didn't like help with that at
No,
all.
no, not at all.
Interesting.
It mattered. Maybe it's a it mattered way more to have people that I knew come up like one on one and tell me that like, hey man, that was really
Oh
great.
yeah.
Um, that didn't bother me at all. But like I would have no interest in like giving an acceptance speech to like a crowd.
Yeah. I
I
feel
I I almost teared up a little bit when Cam Banks said he was proud of me.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a big moment.
it's pretty cool.
I I feel more acutely when it's one on one, which is what my discomfort is like. And we've discussed this where I get very uncomfortable when people come up to me and are like, "I like what you do," and I'm like, "Oh my god," because it feels 100 times more intense. Whereas I have no problem. Like I would be fine going up on stage and giving an acceptance speech and like in front of a group of people. Like that wouldn't Like, I would be perfectly comfortable with that. That wouldn't
That's
bother
why
me in the least.
we make a great 2-man team. You can give all the impersonal acceptance speeches, and every single fan that wants to walk up and like have an actual conversation, I'll field that one.
Yeah.
I like legitimately. I loved sitting at the booth at Gen Con and just talking to people that came up. Like that was awesome. I loved it. But I would
Yeah.
rather get a tooth pulled than give an acceptance speech.
I did not enjoy being at the booth. Like, I didn't have a bad time. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like, but I don't know what to say to people or how. I'm not good in one-on-one conversations with people I don't know. But give me an audience, and I can perform.
Well, there
Right.
you go. See, when the Bear Swarm RPG wins an award, you can give all the acceptance speeches, and I'll talk to all the individuals.
See, the problem is I might not be the best ambassador for a brand. Like, because honestly, I would go up if we won an any and I was there.
You would go up and talk about how this award doesn't mean
Like,
shit.
the opposite of John being like, you have to go up, John would look at me and be like, you can't come up because you're gonna say something inappropriate.
You can come up, but you have to just stand there.
Yeah.
Can't talk.
And I would be like, you got to give me the mic because people have to know that this award is bullshit and I have no respect for it. Whereas, like, if it was just you and I, you're not gonna go up and give an acceptance speech at the Ennies, and I'm gonna go up there and be like, I don't want this award. It's garbage. It means nothing to me.
Yeah, I guess we need a third person to actually be diplomatic. Maybe the answer is you need to give a speech that you think I would give.
And for anyone listening who doesn't believe me, right? If there's any sense of doubt that I don't feel that way about the Ennies, John was very insistent that I take one of the awards, and I was like, no, send it to somebody who gives a shit. I will literally throw it away. Do not send it to me. I do not care.
Yeah.
And to this day, I do not have one of the Ennies. And in fact, in my head, it goes this far, man. When I talk about that I'm an award-winning game designer now, the award I'm thinking of in my head is the RPG Geek Award that we won.
The Golden Geeks.
The Golden Geek. Like, that one, I it means something to me. Because it's a community-based award. Like, people on that site voted for us for Game of the Year for that year. And I have some level of respect for that. I think all awards are kind of bullshit, but it's it's a nice bullshit.
Right.
But I think the Ennies are inherently meaningless. Like, I think there's zero value. I don't think they are a mark of any merit. And I only have respect and room in my heart for awards that I think are meritorious. But I'm sure I've talked about my Ennie feelings on Bear Swarm
Probably
in the past, so I won't get too far into it. But anyways, so yeah, if we won a different award, I'd be safe to give an acceptance speech. Like, I don't have an opinion one way or another about the Origin Awards, but if we won one of those, I'd go up and give like a fine, like, hey, thank you, this is an honor, because I'm sure it is. But fuck the Ennies and fuck that entire community.
Okay. So if we win an NA, you don't get to give the speech.
Oh, I'm giving the speech. Listen, somebody's got to burn this.
Guarantee to make sure that we never win another NE.
I'm gonna. Well, yeah. Well, why would I give a shit? Listen, if we're not gonna win it any because somebody's gonna dig up this episode or one of the other million times that I've talked shit about the Ennies and like we can't get this guy up here.
That could be true.
I've been very opinionated with a lot of people. Uh-oh. One sec. Hello?
Can I tell you?
You can tell me something. What's up?
Well, I'm not feeling very good.
What's wrong? Oh, your tummy bothering you?
Yeah.
Where's mommy?
She put the monkey up.
Oh, okay. Um, just go lay down. I'll be up in a bit. Uh, if you hear mommy, go tell her, okay?
Okay, but I'm comfortable.
I know. I'll come check on you when I'm done here, okay?
Okay.
Go lay down.
Okay.
I love you.
Love you too.
She's not feeling good. She has a case of I don't want to go to sleep-itis.
I was playing. I play D&D with my old school Kentucky friends, two of which that now live in Kansas City. I was playing D&D with them this past Friday, and our GM was pulling single dad duty that night because his wife was out of town. So like several times he had to be like, "Hang on a second." Like he has two boys, so he's like, "Hang on a second." And he would leave, and then he'd come back and be like, "Sorry, one of the boys was complaining that his bed was too squeaky," and we're like, "Oh, don't want to go to bed, itis, got it."
Yeah. All right. How long have we been talking?
Not that long.
Oh, I forgot to break when we started actually recording. Anyway, so moving on from that topic. You have played and completed The Outer Worlds.
I have.
Now,
I did.
Before you go too fast,
Okay.
I am also playing it because $1, yo.
$1, right?
And we can talk about that and explain that to people who aren't aware shortly. But I want to, before we have any sort of conversation about it, I want you to know where I'm at so we can
Okay.
preserve my experience.
Okay.
I just got to the Groundbreaker.
Okay.
I've done a couple missions there, mostly in engineering, but I haven't gone and talked to anybody with any of the corporations, or I haven't gotten too deep into the Groundbreaker at this point.
Okay.
I only have the two companions right now, the engineer girl and the priest guy. And if I could,
Parvati and Sam.
and if I could jettison the priest guy out the airlock, I would. Not because he's done anything wrong, because I'm not interested in any of this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I do not care about his grand plan and trying to translate a French book. So yeah, I'm playing it through it. I've gone through Edgewater at least, so we can kind of spoilery discuss that in detail. But first, high level, what'd you think?
I quite liked it. Without going into details, the ending is a little bit of DLC / sequel bait. Like you spend the whole game dealing with like the corporations in the colony and all their machinations, and then like right before the end they introduce this, but we don't know what happened with blah blah, no one knows, and it's literally like in the last conversation that you have in the game. So it's pretty shame, like it just being thrown in there like that. Like I kind of was like you couldn't let me just have the ending, like. But overall, like I quite liked it. I believe, not I believe, I know that my rating for it was 8 out of 10. The 2 points that it lost for me was like the sequel bait ending. And it's not that the entire ending is sequel bait, but like there's definitely a thing at the end where they're like, and by the way, this is what the sequel's going to be.
Well, it's at the end of the movie when the killer sits up and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
This would have been a great movie had they not. Or a great example is Babylon AD, the Vin Diesel cyberpunk movie, where it's like, man, if you would have ended 10 minutes sooner, this movie would have been amazing. But you had to tack on this additional ending, and you lose a couple points for it.
Yeah, the anyway. 2 points that it kind of lost off of being, and like I think that and I'm pretty vocal that like I very rarely give perfect scores to anything artistic, because I think everything can be improved in some way.
Yeah.
Right? Like there is no such thing to me as the perfect art.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. It's so like a 9.5 for me is as close to perfect as anything's gonna get.
We've discussed it. I feel very similar. Like there are certain things that hit the 10 mark for me, but it's mostly because my scale is very personally representative. Like, maybe not video games, but like movie wise, like Ghostbusters is a perfect 10 for me. But I'm not saying that because it's objectively a perfect 10 movie. Like, I
Right.
recognize that there are flaws and faults in it, but for me, there is no better movie.
Right.
Anyway,
So yeah, it lost a couple points based off of the kind of sequel bait ending. It was a little bit shorter than I would have preferred. Um, I think I finished somewhere between 20 and 25 hours, and I did like everything I could find. Um, so I could have stood for it to be a little bit longer, not like double the length or anything like that, but another 5 hours maybe. Like that would have been made me pretty happy. Um, and not necessarily a detraction of points for this, but it is something that is very common in games of the genre, like modern open world RPGs. That is factually does not exist in this game. There are no romance options.
yeah.
None. Everybody is just your buddy. Which, like I said, is not necessarily like a mark against it, but it is like I was trained to be looking for the romance options, and they are not there.
Yeah, the thing that's striking to me isn't necessarily what the Outer Worlds does, but what within the genre that it doesn't do. Like, there are no mini games,
Yeah,
which I my initial reaction when I'm like, oh, hacking and lockpicking is just either like, do I have enough of it's resource management. Like hacking and lockpicking is resource management. I don't know why I'm trying to explain it in any grandiose way. It's like you have a resource. Do you have enough? Yes, no. All right. And when I first ran into it, I'm like, oh, that's kind of disappointing. Like I enjoy the mini games and all, like in Skyrim or what's the BioShock like hacking mini game where you had to like align the pipes. I know people hated it, but I like that. I like that break from the action. I like that you know. I don't like the Mass Effect just smear gel on it and it opens up feeling. But after seeing how many locked things there are, like you run across one all the time, I'm like, oh, by taking away the mini game, you could populate the world with more little secrets, little rewards, little gifts, because you didn't have to worry about like burning somebody. Like, listen, I'm not gonna pick 3 locks in a row, you know.
right.
And it's something that I thinking about like in the Bethesda Fallout games. If you get into a locked room, there's nothing locked in that room.
Yeah,
But in Outer Worlds, I've gotten into rooms and I'm like, all right, got through the door. Oh, there's all this stuff. Oh, and there's also a locked safe within the locked room. And usually there's something really fucking good in there. And like,
yeah,
that's actually a pretty good feeling. Because the game recognizes you're spending additional resources to get here.
yeah.
So I like it was a noticeable lack, a noticeable gap within the game, but I've learned to very much appreciate it actually. This the same thing with it not actually being an open world game, but a series of linked
Yeah.
environments. My first thought is like, oh man, that's lazy. And then I was like, except all the environments are a lot more compact.
Well,
Like,
they're really distinct from each other too. Like you don't
yeah,
have to deal with like, well, what's it look like when you transition from the forest zone to the open plains zone, and then you have this like weird trend. No, you just fucking do. It's fine.
yeah. Uh,
It lets them do like weird alien, especially like for a thing that's in space on different planets and stuff, right? Like it lets you do weird alien atmospheres and shit like that without having to justify how they meet.
Yeah, you don't have to have a transition zone where you don't have any content, right?
Right.
And that's what you get in like the Fallout games. New Vegas being the exception to this, because I thought New Vegas was pretty seamless between its zones. But you would have in Fallout 4, noticeably, there'd be areas where like this they just had to populate some wasteland because it wouldn't make sense to have an amusement park parked right next door to this small town. Like
Right.
so. Again, I went into it. I'm like, oh, it's not open world. That's missing. Until I realized you did it for this reason. That's actually kind of enhancing the game in some ways.
Yeah.
I felt the same way when I learned. I learned before I picked up the game that there's no romance options, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of exciting. I don't have to. So, I enjoy romance options in games, but I realize that they are figure out how to put the coin into the slot to get the reward. They're not actual relationships, right? It's just, did I say the right thing? Did I give the right gift? Did I press the right combination of buttons to get the weird cutscene?
Yeah.
And once that was removed, I'm like, oh, I can actually, like, instead of trying to focus on how, like, I was listening to one of the older shows, like the recent shows, and I've fallen into the habit of saying like a lot, so I'm trying to stop, and now I'm noticing it. So if you're listening, I apologize. It bugs the shit out of me too. Anyway, in Mass Effect 1, for example, there were only 2 female romance options, either Liara or Ashley. And I wasn't interested in either of them, so I just got to know the crew. And in doing so, I was like, I really like... I forget her name now. The
Tali.
I really liked Tali, and I feel the same way in Outer Worlds. Like, since I'm not trying to figure out what the magic button is to make the romance happen, I'm just like enjoying the characters. And so far, like, I haven't met anybody that I'm like, oh, I wish I had a romance option with them. They're interesting people.
Yeah.
So I see it as like that gap is actually bringing me out of my expectations into more rewarding gameplay, which I think is interesting.
There is a companion that I quite wanted to romance, and was a little bit disappointed that I didn't have the option. But I see what you're saying. Typically, I view the romance options a little bit more like I'm picking my favorite.
Yeah. So I hear it. Like, I just feel like if I know there are romance options and I have a favorite and I want to romance my favorite, I'm not necessarily choosing the interactions that I think that reflect the type of character I'm trying to embody, but I start choosing the options that I think will get me to what I want to achieve.
That's fair.
Which is less like the Telltale games are the closest games that I've ever played that I would say are like 9.5 to 10s. Like, especially for a role playing game standpoint, there's nothing in the Telltale games that I found to be less than character embodying. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, I feel like when I'm engaging in mechanics where I'm trying to get certain relationships built with certain characters, I start playing the mechanic and less the character. So, anyway.
What are your thoughts on it so far?
I'm enjoying it. I am also kind of surprised by how, like, I don't know. I've been kind of steering clear of like thought pieces on it, but there are parts of it that I think are amazing and super good and super fun, and it really reminds me of like the old like Fallout 1 and 2 style humor and setups and everything. But overall, I am astonished with how mediocre it really is. The shooting's not great.
Really? I thought that the shooting was pretty tight.
But it's nothing special. It's nothing that I haven't seen done better in other games.
Sure.
It's not bad. It's not Alpha Protocol.
It's no Alpha Protocol. I would say that it's even far better than like New Vegas or Fallout 3 or Fallout 4. Like, it's better than the shooting from any of the first-person Fallouts
I-
by a long shot.
I think it's on par with Fallout 4's shooting, except for trading in VATS for their kind of slow-mo is a improvement, is a direct improvement. And using your time dilation does add enough to the game that I think makes the shooting a little stronger than Fallout 4. But if you take away VATS and you take away time dilation and you just talk straight shooter mechanics, I think they're pretty comparable. Like, I don't see anything really special with Outer Worlds.
I used time dilation almost like I used it pretty much to ambush people, and otherwise I didn't really use it much at all. And I found the shooting to be pretty satisfying.
Yeah, I guess I'm just not having the
But-
same experience.
But I played on mouse and keyboard, so that could be a
Ah.
pretty significant difference.
Yeah, I'm playing on Xbox, but I played the Fallout games with controller. I play
Yeah.
most of my games with the controller, so
I
maybe
mean, maybe it does function similarly on controller, but feels better on mouse and keyboard.
yeah.
Like, even on mouse and keyboard, I felt like Fallout 4 and New Vegas and Fallout 3, like, not great shooting.
Perhaps. But I know, like, the Call of Duty games have much tighter shooting mechanics, and felt much better even on a controller, than I feel Outer Worlds feels right now. I'm also, I find it a little tedious at points. I feel like some of the what's the setting narrative feels a little overly invasive. That's not quite the right word. Like, going through Edgewater, like, I very quickly figured out what this town is, but it felt like the game kept reinforcing it to me over and over and over and over that it's a company town, but you work for company wages, and are they better than slaves at this point? But they are better than I'm like, I get what you're doing here, but I talked to like 5 or 6 characters that wanted to reinforce that to me, and I was a little bored with how repetitive that became. And then when they present the moral choice in the first zone, like, do you side with Edgewater? Do you side with the botanist? I could find very little reason to do anything other than what I did. And I'm trying to not be spoilery here.
Right.
But, like, I didn't have, like, I want in my moral choices to pause the game and go, well, I don't know. Except when I got to this and the mechanic lady stops you and is like, hey, you really need to consider this. I'm like, no, I don't. I've made up my mind. I know what I'm doing. Like, I've put all the pieces together. Neither of these settlements are good. Neither of them are evil. But there's one that I want to support more than the other, and I've made my choice. Button. Now, after I finished that zone, I started a new game where I went through and I just murdered everybody. I wiped out both settlements. And that felt pretty good. Listen, so there's something that I want to talk directly about this one thing that so far Outer Worlds is doing, that Fallout 1 and 2 did, that Fallout 3 and 4 didn't do, and I find super aggravating, and that's unkillable NPCs. So far, in the Outer Worlds, I have not ran into a single NPC that I can't kill, other than NPCs who are put in situations where I can't get to them to kill them. And Fallout 1 and 2 did the same thing. If you met somebody, if you were in the same room as somebody, you could shoot them in the face.
Yeah.
You might lose out on quests. Stories might end right there. There could be ramifications for these actions. And if the game had people that you can't kill, you talked to them through intercoms or through a computer. You didn't face them. You weren't face to face with them. And I noticed in Outer Worlds, I went to the space station, the guy that breaks you out of the your ship, and he's behind bulletproof glass. I'm like, aha, because the game can't let me kill him. But I walked up to the mayor of Edgewater and shot him in the face, and the game kept going. And I would honestly rather, if there's any game designers out there listening to this, what I want, I would rather shoot somebody in the game to say, game over, try again, than what Fallout 4 does, where you shoot them, they fall down, and they stand back up.
Yeah.
That drives me insane. It gives me the feeling that I could do this thing, and then it robs it from me at the last second. I'd rather you just slap my hand and say, whoa, you can't do that. But ideally, be smarter about it and just put them behind a glass wall and not let me shoot them in the face. And rant. But
to my knowledge, that holds true for the entire game. There was never a point where I was pretty sure that I was only going to play through once, so I didn't do anything reckless. Like I never went on any massive killing sprees where I was like, well, fuck this place, and decided to kill everyone. But every single person that I was like, well, I want you to die now. The game let me kill them. And one of the in the same kind of vein, anytime that I was faced with quote unquote just a person, a bullet to the head ended them very quickly.
Yeah.
Like there were no bullet sponges. Right? Like, if it was a dude and I could see his face and I shot him in it, he died. To the point where, like, sometimes I would do that, like, with a quote-unquote, with someone that I thought was going to be a boss. And then, like, they'd be like, well, it's time to, like, I want to negotiate with you, blah, blah, blah. I want you to do this. And I'd be like, no. And they'd be like, well, then it's time for you to die. And then the conversation would end, and I would go into time dilation and just put two in their brain, and they would fall over. And I was like, that was quick. Damn.
Yeah, I forget... it was right at the beginning of the game when you meet the two police people, the Edgewater like cops or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you should go fight the Marauders. And they went and fought the Marauders, and they're walking up to the ship. I'm like, yeah, I don't know whose ship this is. And I shot them both in the back of the head. I'm like, I don't want to be in trouble for this. And I came out of the ship, and there's a guy's like, I came, and like it looks like these people died. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what happened here. Lie. Then I shot him in the face too, and I walked away. I'm like, nobody could know about this.
Yeah.
But it was nice that I was like, yeah, sure, I'm on your team. Bang, bang.
Yeah. In Fallout 4, they definitely would have fallen over and then stood back up and kept shooting Marauders.
Yeah. So I do look like I'm going to play through a second time, and I'm going to play... I've already decided my character's just gonna be like a Batman villain. Like I don't know if I'll do like Mr. Freeze or the Joker or Jonathan Crane. Like I'm gonna build a Batman villain, and I'm just gonna go in and be like, everybody in Edgewater dies, everybody in the Botanical Gardens dies. Let's go to the what is it, Earthshaker, Groundbreaker. Like I'm gonna clear this space station out too, and I'm gonna see what happens in the game if I am the scourge of the universe and leave no living soul behind in my wake.
Valid way to play the game, at least as far as I can't think of anyone or any point that like you wouldn't be able to proceed.
Yep, that's smart. That's what I'm gonna do my second time around. Have you seen there's a guy who speed played it in 24 minutes?
No.
Yep.
Doesn't seem that surprising though. Like, in terms of what do you need to do? Like, yeah, if you just ran.
Yeah.
I noticed that you become a killing machine very quickly too.
Yeah.
Like very fast. I found few challenges. I was just playing on normal difficulty, so maybe it's. I mean, I'm sure it is harder.
Yeah, I think if you kick it up to
until the very end, like probably like after about an hour or two, I was unkillable until like the very last encounter, which I died I think twice on.
Yeah, I think the game is pretty pretty biased towards the player until you kick it onto the supernova mode, and then I'm pretty sure at that point
Yeah.
it'll be hard. But I have no interest in that. I am in fact playing on story mode because I don't have time for this. Like,
Yeah.
I have very limited free time. I don't want to get bogged down with like a gun battle I can't get through. One of the things that I do want to talk about that you might not appreciate as much as I do, just because of how quickly you played through it versus how I have to play through it. The quest log, the journal that you have, is fucking phenomenal. It is top notch. It is so amazing that I can step away from the game and come back and open up my journal and be like, all right, what was I doing? And read through. And it's so thorough that it reminds you of everything you've done and what you need to do next so well. It is so great for a more casual player. There were many times in Fallout 4 or Skyrim that I'd load the game up and like, I don't remember what this quest is. I know what my next objective is, so I'm just going to go do that. But I'd finish the quest and be like, I don't remember the first half of this.
Yeah.
And so far in Outer Worlds, that has not happened to me. Every time I boot it up, I can refresh myself very well. Super pleased about that. But yeah, I think it's fun. I'm enjoying it very much. I hope there's a sequel or DLC. I hope there's more. I hope it does well for Obsidian. I am interested how it's going to do, considering their Game Pass $1, you get the whole game on launch.
Well, they're owned by they got bought by Microsoft.
Yeah.
And Microsoft is who put it on there. So I can't imagine that Microsoft would then be like, "Well, we put your thing on the Game Pass, and then you didn't sell more copies. Therefore, like that's the kind of thing that EA would do, not Microsoft."
But I'm curious if like what Microsoft is looking for is an uptick in month 2 subscriptions from the game. And I'm not sure if a 20-hour single-player game is going to bring an uptick in second-month subscriptions.
Maybe not, but I get the feeling that Outer Worlds was something of a reputation building game.
You think so?
That's the impression that I get, because it's one of the it's since Alpha Protocol, it's like the first new IP that Obsidian's done, and Alpha Protocol was okay.
I mean, that's not true at all. They did Pillars of Eternity.
Was that Obsidian?
Yeah. They did Tyranny.
Oh, well, I'm just wrong then.
Yeah, no.
How about
You're straight up wrong. I got nothing for it.
Well, there you go. I am wrong. I'm not too proud to admit it.
It is, however, I do think there is a redemptive quality to it because of their reputation with Fallout New Vegas and Alpha Protocol and Knights of the Old Republic 2, where they shipped games that people loved but were horribly flawed.
Yeah.
And I don't think Tyranny had nearly the impact. I think Pillars of Eternity had an impact, but it's that top-down isometric style, very kind of old-school gamer, is a very niche game at this point. And it's not really designed for the console market. I think they've done console ports of it, but it was designed to be a PC game.
Yeah.
Whereas this is kind of a return to console development, kind of a big AAA title. I mean, not to take anything away from Pillars of Eternity, like that was a large budgeted title. It was an incredibly successful Kickstarter. I mean, it's spun off several other games on its platform. But I think Outer Worlds is a return to the public consciousness for Obsidian. So do you think it's more of a like Microsoft is backing this for a long run IP, and you get the first taste for free?
Not necessarily a long run IP. I think they're backing it for a long run studio. Obsidian has a reputation for being really good at telling stories, not so great at the programming and gameplay side.
Okay.
Like their previous games are either, and in some cases, all of the above, buggy, or like the game, like Alpha Protocol is not necessarily buggy, but it plays like shit. I mean, I love that game, but let's be real,
It was overly
it plays like
ambitious.
crap. Yeah. And Pillars of Eternity and Tyranny, I played both. They were fine, but they were certainly not. They were not ambitious in terms of the gameplay, right? Like you said, they're very old school, traditional, isometric, party based RPGs. The ambitious things that they did were Alpha Protocol, which the shooting was god awful. New Vegas, which was riddled with bugs, not necessarily Obsidian's fault, because they had to build it off of the Fallout 3 engine under a very limited amount of time, but
Well,
damaged their reputation.
the same thing can be said about Alpha Protocol. Sega made them ship it before they were done.
Right.
I mean, it's the same story with Alpha Protocol, New Vegas, and Nice Little Republic 2.
Yep.
Their publisher is like, you're done.
Ship it. Yeah, exactly. So I think that my feeling is that Outer Worlds is is Obsidian saying we should be the new Bethesda.
Interesting. The new Bethesda, huh?
My impression was that Obsidian just walked into Bethesda's Fallout living room and took a shit on the carpet and was like, "This place belongs to me now." Especially given how awful Bethesda's reputation is right now.
Yeah,
and has been for I mean, a couple of years now. Bethesda has not been held in high regard.
Yeah. I think so Obsidian is founded by a bunch of former Black Isle Studio employees,
Yep.
which Black Isle is more or less the division that created the original Fallout games. So they're if you can't trace a line from Tim Kaine creating Fallout 1 to Bethesda buying Fallout to Tim Kaine making the Outer Worlds, I can't help you. Like, if you can't see that, I got nothing for it. And there's definitely a feeling in Outer Worlds of we're going to do with the Outer Worlds what should have been done with Fallout 3. Like, we're going to take that style of game and one-up it from where it was, in my opinion. Not necessarily like a Fallout 3 was wrong and bad, we're going to do the right version, but it's like
this is how we would have done it.
Yeah, exactly. This is how Black Isle would have handled Fallout 3 given the style of game that Bethesda made. And I think that's pretty interesting. Yeah. I'm also, and I know you feel the same way, I am hungry for a single player game development studio that I can fucking love again. Because I've lost BioWare. I've lost Bethesda.
Yep.
I've lost Telltale Games.
Yep. You lost the guys that made Dead Space.
Yep. Give me something. Like,
it's pretty much Obsidian and CD Projekt right now. That's it.
Yeah.
Everybody else is making big, bombastic, online. Like, even the single-player games that Ubisoft makes are always online, connected to a marketplace with refreshing weekly quests. And I just want to buy a game and play it.
I mean, as much as I love the Assassin's Creed series, Ubisoft and their games have never been where I turn to when I want phenomenal storytelling.
Not since like Black Flag, I would say.
I
Black
w-
Flag was the last Assassin's Creed game that I really enjoyed the story.
my problem with the Assassin's Creed is there's always been more filler than story.
That's pretty true.
Whereas in BioWare games, like in the renaissance of BioWare games, I felt there was very little filler.
Originally, Old Republic, Mass Effect trilogy, Dragon Age, the first one. Dragon Age 2 wasn't great.
Yeah. And then it's this. I mean, like Telltale is night and day. Telltale is zero filler, right? Like, it's a different style game, so I don't want to necessarily compare Red Delicious apples to Honeycrisp apples. I mean, we are still talking about apples here, but very, very different kinds. So I think I'm ready for Obsidian to kind of have the ability to do what it is they've always done well to completion.
Yeah.
And if Outer Worlds is the flagship of that, even if it's not, I don't know if I agree wholly that this isn't the beginning of a bigger IP.
Oh, I think it entirely could be. I think that it's more important to them that it's the studio planting a flag in the industry rather than an IP introduction. Like I think it's Obsidian saying, "Look at this, we should be a AAA developer," rather than saying, "Look at this, this is the next big IP."
I mean,
And it could be both. Like
yeah,
it could also be the next big IP, but I think that the focus is more on the studio's growth, not the IP's growth.
I can see that. I think I swing more towards this is an IP's birth than a studio's rebirth. But I see your point, and I think that's a very valid way to look at the landscape. Either way, if this is more than just the birth of an IP, if this is the rebirth of a studio, that's going to bring me fucking high quality single player game experiences, I'm on board. I'm excited. This is great.
Yeah.
I'm ready for this. I'm eager for this because
Yeah.
nobody else is feeding me anymore. I have strong feelings about Bethesda because I've never been a big Elder Scrolls fan, and I mostly loved Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 because I love Fallout, not necessarily because I loved those games. But say what you will, like they were massive single player experiences.
Yeah.
And there were really interesting stories buried within those games. You know, the main quests weren't necessarily the interesting stories, but they were there. So I'm more reeling for the loss of Telltale. Like Telltale was if I want a good story.
Yeah, Bioware's mine, and they're dying a slow death under the thumb of EA.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's there is a similarity in BioWare launching an MMO, Bethesda launching an MMO, and suddenly their focus shifts away from single player into that MMO space, you know?
Yep.
Bethesda took a pretty hard turn once they launched Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah.
Like, you can see it in Fallout 4 that they're, like, experimenting with building out MMO-esque features. Which is not what I want. Not saying that that's not a valid game. Not saying that there's not room for that. I'm just saying I would rather...
Not where you want your $60 to go.
Yeah. I'd rather vote with my wallet towards the Witcher series than towards Fallout 76. Now, listen, I bought Fallout 76, and I played it for like a week or two, and I tried my best to enjoy it, but it was so shallow.
Yeah.
And it really highlighted how, as an old school Fallout fan, how far the franchise has moved away from what I once loved about it.
Yeah.
The other thing with Outer Worlds that I should have been expecting, but I wasn't, and I don't. Listen, you can be surprised that I didn't see this coming. Uh, it feels really Firefly-esque. Holy shit!
Yeah. The first two companions are Kaylee and Book.
Yeah.
There is another one later that's kind of Jane, but Parvati and Sam are like the closest, like, and even beyond just the companions, like the feel, like it's all corporate and
It's corporate, it's frontier, it's west, it's space
gritty, and
western.
yeah,
I listen, I don't know how I didn't pick up on it, but I started playing the game. I'm like, holy fuck! Like, if Malcolm Reynolds walked around the corner in this game, I'd be like, yep, you belong here.
yeah. If Captain Reynolds, voiced by Nathan Fillion, gave me a quest, yep, that fits in perfectly.
Yeah, and in fact, like I haven't thought about Firefly like seriously in years. Like I've always like because it's such a big part of nerd culture, it crops up from time to time, and I don't have a ton of like die hard Firefly was this great show, bring it back, 6 seasons in a movie kind of mentality towards it. I enjoyed it. It was good. It ended, and I'm fine with that. That's kind of my synopsis. But like in playing Outer Worlds, I'm like, man, I could watch Firefly again. Like
Yeah.
I'm kind of getting the itch for it. Like,
Yeah.
well, Firefly as a whole wasn't something that really like got me high energy. There were a couple moments in the show that are among the best moments in television, in my for my opinion. Like the scene with Jane in the airlock, still to this day. Like I think about it, like it pops into my head. I'm like, God damn, that was so good.
Don't tell him what I did.
Or even I think it might be like the first episode where Mal kicks a guy into the engine, and I'm like, you are.
It is.
I've never felt a show set the tone so succinctly. Like right there, like I was like, oh, that's what this show is. That's who that guy is. This is the level we're operating at. And yeah, that was that's who Mal was.
If I'm not back in an hour, you come in there and you rescue me.
But and like that's the other like it's they it's been done since then. But the abruptness of the main character being like, okay, boot, next guy, give him his money back. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was taken aback by it. Anyway, I'm enjoying Outer Worlds. I'm not going to play through it in a weekend like yourself, just because I don't have that kind of time to dedicate to it. And honestly, I'm kind of excited that it's not like hundreds of hours, because
I didn't want it to be hundreds of hours, but I could have gone for 30.
and that's fair. I felt very overwhelmed by The Witcher 3 as I was playing through that, because like there were points where I'm like, I'm never gonna finish this game. And then once I got to the end of the main story, I'm like, I don't want to do the DLC. Like I'm tired. Like I've been plugging around as Geralt for so long. So I'm excited for a more. If they can deliver in 20 hours, and it is parallel to how they deliver not open world but zones. If it's not bloated 100-hour content, it's just a tight 20. I'm good with that. I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
But I think there's nothing wrong with not wanting 10% more either.
Yeah.
Being like, this meal was almost filling.
Yeah.
But I think since I'll be playing through it at a slower pace, I think that 20 hours will feel more substantial to me in the long run.
Oh, I have no doubt. Yeah.
So, again, having not beat it, I'm not comfortable giving like my recommendation or rating or score for it. But Mike says 8 out of 10, and as far as I've seen, I don't think you're off the mark. We don't have radical differing opinions on this.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Shall we wrap this thing up with some
Let's-
shout outs?
let's put a button.
All right, I gotta pee. I'll be right back.
Okay. Hello, chat room. I see you sitting there not saying stuff. Help me come up with a shout out. Tell me what I should like. I haven't done anything recently. Yeah, he pees before every shout out. He's a man of routine. Mike's like Old Faithful. Every hour and a half, goes and pees. It was like this when we lived together too. It wasn't. I'm just making stuff up. Don't listen to me. I need to think of a shout out. He'll give me shit if I don't have something. Oh, that's right. I had something before we started recording, and I forgot, and now I remember. For you in the chat room, I'll give you a preview. There's a new Paul Rudd TV show on Netflix called Living with Myself that we've started watching, and I'm enjoying very much. I'm going to shout out to it. It's just for you, chat room, because I love you. I should have brought a glass of water with me. Very, very parched.
I am back.
Hey, fat ass, welcome back.
The fuck's that? What?
What?
What did I do to you?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Fuck you.
Whoa.
You're right. I do pee before every shout out because typically we've been going for about an hour and a half at that point, and gotta pee.
I was telling him you pee like every hour and a half. That when we lived together, you were like Old Faithful. Every hour and a half, Mike goes pees.
About every 90 minutes. Gotta make a pee pee.
Gotta make a pee pee.
Well, I also, it's much harder to hold it now. Improving. But
Speaking of funny little sayings like "gotta make a pee pee," I went and saw Amigo in one of the opening bands. I'm going to condense this story down considerably. The one of the opening bands, Twin Temple, has a very like satanic vibe to them. Like they're very like Hail Satan, and so like I was telling Nikki about it. I'm like, listen, it was fun, but I'm too old to hail Satan. It's just. I just don't have that energy in me anymore.
Satanism's a young man's game.
Satanism is a young man's game. Listen, I'm glad you're into it. Yep, I'll throw the horns once for you, but listen, I turn 36 in a couple months. I don't have the energy to hail Satan every 5 minutes anymore.
Yeah.
I hear you. I'm with you. Next, please. Can I get a drink here?
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
This is the section of the show where Rob and I discuss something that we enjoy, and we want to bring it to your attention. We refer to this part of the show as the shout-outs. I don't want to be presumptuous, but may I? May I go first?
Yeah, you usually kick it to me, so it feels. We should establish a better rotation.
Okay.
Be my guest.
Well, mine. The main reason I wanted to go first this week is because mine kind of flows from what we were talking about before.
That's good. Mine doesn't.
Because I was actually going to have The Outer Worlds as my shout out, but hey, we talked about it for a while, so I will instead give a shout out to the Microsoft Game Pass, which The Outer Worlds is on among. Like, I don't want to turn this into like an advertisement or anything, but like, there's a ton of games on there. The Outer Worlds, I believe, is the newest release on there, but there's a ton of other like full games on there too.
I think like Fallout 4 is even on there.
It very well could be. Like, there's like 150 games or something like that on the Game Pass right now. But you may have heard Rob and I say earlier, $1. currently you can get a 30-day trial of the Microsoft Game Pass for $1 and you can use that $1 to play a brand new AAA RPG.
I can do you one better than $1 even. If you go to Taco Bell right now and get, they have, I forget what it is. It's the double chalupa box. You will get a little code on that to win an Xbox. You go plug in that, like you text that code to the thing, and then the next day they will send you an email with a 14-day free trial for Xbox Game Pass. So 2 weeks.
There you go.
Free 2 weeks if you go eat Taco Bell.
And then after that, you can get the 1 month trial, probably, I
Yep.
would assume.
Yep.
So there you go. 6 weeks for the price of $1 and your dignity. Now, granted, I have traded my dignity to Taco Bell many times. But make no mistake, that's what you're doing.
We've actually got the Game Pass a few times in our house. I actually couldn't use the $1 deal anymore. I'd already used it like a few months ago. Because it's, especially as a casual gamer, the variety is there that I can go pick up a few things and try a few different games and not feel guilty for spending a shit ton of money. So it's great if you're a hardcore gamer because you get like a 150 game library. And it's also great if you're more casual and you just want to dabble and try a few things and see what tickles your fancy.
Yeah.
I originally got it because I wanted to play Graveyard Keeper, and I did not think the game was worth more than $1. And sure enough, it was not. It was fun. I enjoyed it, but I would not spend retail price on Graveyard Keeper.
Anyway, that's my shout out. Microsoft Game Pass, $1. Pay you $1 due and go play from a selection of games.
I approve.
How about you, sir?
I rarely approve of your shout-outs.
You should approve of all of my shout outs.
But I approve of this one. I'm going to give a shout-out to a TV series that Nikki and I just started watching. Now, listen, we're 2 episodes in, so I can't vouch for the entirety of it, but it's only 8 episodes, so we're like a fourth of the way through. It's a Netflix original series called Living with Myself. It stars Paul Rudd. The conceit of the show is that he's a sad sack piece of shit. He goes to a spa, they clone him, something goes wrong, he wakes up in the woods, and now he has a clone. And the clone is a better version of himself. It is like, so first off, I don't know if fair listener, if you've ever watched anything with Paul Rudd, but the man is unworldly charismatic.
He's real funny.
There's just something about Paul Rudd that appeals to the lizard brain in me that I'm like, I like this guy. I don't know anything about this guy, but I like this guy. And he's excellent in the show. He does it's really fun to watch him play both like best version of himself and worst version of himself. And we're really enjoying it. Like I said, we're 2 episodes in, and it's not shy about asking big questions, but it's also not insistent on them. Like, I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get spoilery, but
Okay.
it's both. It does a good job making you think about the situation and giving you laughs. And it's 20 minutes per episode. Like it's a standard like half-hour show. It's not 20 minutes. It's like 24 minutes, I think. And like I said, there's 8 episodes, so it's a very small commitment to begin with. And it's very good. It's very enjoyable. So my recommendation, my shout out is to the Netflix original series Living with Myself.
I've heard good things about it.
We're enjoying it.
I'm glad that you're enjoying it.
We are too.
It's good to enjoy things.
The sad part is, all of our regular shows are back on as well. So we're also we're watching The Good Place, and we watched The Goldbergs, which this season's not been too great. We watched Modern Family, but Modern Family is really getting sitcom-y, and I'm kind of getting tired of it. But there's an HBO show that came out called The Righteous Gemstones that I'm really excited about, and I really want to start on. But we started this other show, and then I don't know if you've heard anything about the Watchmen show, but
I've heard it's good.
I went from zero interested to holy shit, I'm nothing but interested during a 30-minute conversation on a podcast I listened to. So, if you want to get sold on the Watchmen, how I got sold on the Watchmen, go listen to the latest episode of Fat Man Beyond. Currently, Kevin Smith is on tour, so it's Black Man Beyond. It's his co-host with other black celebrities talking about black nerd culture, and it is a podcast that I never knew I wanted. But they talked about how Watchmen is the blackest show on television right now in a way that blew my mind, revealed something about our country's history that I had previously never known about, and made me thoroughly interested in the Watchmen show.
Cool.
Anyway,
Watchmen has now been on my short list of stuff to watch for a little bit. So
after the show, I'll tell you the couple lines that really resonated with me.
Okay.
And kind of clue you in on why I'm excited. I don't want to bring it onto our show because it's another podcast that talked about it. Just go listen to them. Anyway, thank you for listening to the Bear Swarm podcast. I'm glad to be back. I know we've missed a couple weeks recently because of various things. But hey, here's another episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you come back and see us again next week. Next week, Mike and I will talk about seeing each other in person.
Sure. Why not?
Good night,
will
everybody.
have happened by then.
Do you have any final salutations?
No, I do not.